Man, it is really good to be with you, and I'm going to tell you a story on why it's so cool that I'm here with you. But to do that, I got to start off with some demo. So, just a little bit about me. My name is Matthew Montoya, Channel Marketing and Enablement Manager at Constant Contact. I have been at Constant Contact for 10 years. Now, that's going to play a role in my excitement for talking to this audience. But again, I'm going to get there in just a second. But let's start with demo. So, if we're talking about uh, uh, digital marketing and automation, I think a great feature in Constant Contact to showcase that is in creating an email. Now, Constant Contact does offer associations more than email. We have landing pages, websites, we have list growth tools, we have all sorts of automation features that I'm going to show some of today. Uh, but email is really what we're best known for. And if you know us and if you use us, you probably know us for our email offerings. So our first piece of automation, let me actually pause before I get into that because I wanted to say something to you all. I'm going to do more than demo. I'm going to actually teach you some best practices because I know associations, I know you're likely undertaking email marketing already, and especially around email marketing, I'm going to share some best practices with you as I show you a demo. So I say that because the best practices I'm going to show you aren't necessarily unique to Constant Contact. We respect that you might be using another tool, and I want to make sure that you get the most out of your time today. So ideally, you're going to walk away with some insight on what makes Constant Contact so great, but also some education that you can employ to improve the results for your organization. So when we talk about automation, a great place to start, especially around email, is a fantastic feature to help you build your email. So I'm going to go here and create an email and um, also share my first best practice. So we have a wide variety of templates across all sorts of campaigns, but we also have a feature called brand templates. And what this allows you to do is drop in your organization's URL and it will create an email for you. And that's where my storytelling comes into play. So I've been at Constant Contact 10 years. Preceding my time at 10 years, I worked at this association, the National Association for Community College Entrepreneurship. And it was one of the toughest jobs I've ever loved because we were a small staff, just 3 people at that time. And I actually did research, got Constant Contact, used Constant Contact to help our association grow. And my connection to ASAE, not only were we members of ASAE, but I actually went to an ASAE event in Washington, D.C. And my association employer wouldn't let me telling you the story. But I actually met my contact at Constant Contact that later helped me get a job at Constant Contact, where now I've been 10 years. So thank you, ASAE. All right, so I'm going to use this as an example for this feature. I'm going to use the URL for NACI. I'm going to paste it in. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at that website and it's going to pull the colors, logo, associated social media links, and create me an email template. So that's what it's doing right now is it's pooling all those colors, a little bit of magic, and it's going to spit out an email. Now, it's just going to be the shell of an email, and that's my first best practice, which is a best practice is to actually create a master template for your organization. One, and you can have several, but one that you can copy and reuse. That way you have some essential elements. What are some essential elements? Well, of course, your logo, but your brand colors as well. You want to make sure you carry your brand colors through your email consistently because brand recognition is increased up to 80% by just including your colors. Now, the reason for that is that images often get blocked about 30% of the time. And this logo is an image. So we want to make sure that we're carrying our brand through the email. And with Constant Contact's branded template maker, you can do that. Now, I'm not going to build an email for my old employer, NACI. I'm going to actually use a dummy email that I created just for today. So let me go ahead and go into that email. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to edit an email in Constant Contact while again showing you some best practices. So let's start off by putting in a headline. Constant Contact is drag and drop. What you see is what you get, meaning that you can put anything anywhere in your email you see fit. Now, we also have easy to use text editing. As you can see here, if you've used Microsoft Word or a similar tool, it's easy to apply text, but to save us a little bit of time, I'm going to copy and paste. Now I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And now let's bring in a little more text. So I'm going to bring some text, drop it underneath. And let's say we promote a webinar. So I'm going to put in a little bit of text here about a webinar. And let's bold that. And now let's bring in an image. So you can drag an image directly from your computer into your email. You can upload it into Constant Contact. I can even utilize social media images, and Constant Contact has a built-in image gallery tied to stock images if I need to use them. But I actually already have an image for this. So I'm going to simply drag it over where I want it and let go. We're almost there. Next thing we need to do is add a call to action. So let's add in a button. And here's my next big piece of advice. If you're using Constant Contact, if you're using another tool, make sure you utilize buttons as your call to action. Buttons are really fantastic. The reason why buttons are really key in getting people to do something is that they're buttons. People inherently know they're supposed to click on a button. On top of that, you remember how I said that images are often blocked? Well, a button is never blocked, so it's a call to action that never disappears. So let me add a little bit of text here for the button and teach you my next tip and demo something really cool about Constant Contact. So in addition to buttons, you also want to link your images. Images are often clicked on because they're easy to click on a mobile device. So I'm going to put in a link to my webinar so people that might be inclined to click that image can go to register for my webinar. And of course, I'm going to do the same thing for the button. And here's my next demo best practice for you. So Constant Contact has a feature called click segmentation. And what this does is it automatically copies anybody that's clicked on your link into a new or existing list. Now, the benefit there is that you know something about the person that clicked on this link. You know, my work with associations, both at Constant Contact and in the past, a lot of folks really are obsessed with open rates. And open rates are a good metric to pay attention to, but the click-through rate is really the metric to pay attention to the most. And the reason for that is that click-through rates, knowing who clicked on what, is how you can actually develop future content. You start to understand what your audience really appreciates. And conversely, you also know what maybe didn't resonate with your audience. So with click segmentation, the ability to copy somebody into a new or existing list, we're automatically segmenting your list for you. So for instance, if somebody clicked on this webinar link, well, I know something about them. Firstly, I could compare it against my registration and see if they actually committed to registering and perhaps send them a follow-up, maybe even automatically. But I also know that these people are interested in this kind of content. So I would simply create a list. I'll just use this one for now and insert it. Now, anybody that clicks on that image is going to go into that particular list. Now, Constant Contact, as I'm going to show you in just a little bit, has automation as well. So if it's a common kind of content, I can actually have queued up emails to go out anytime somebody goes into that list, automatically giving them that kind of content. So let's go ahead and link the button to as a best practice. And we'll use the same click segmentation. What we're doing is we're giving people two ways to get to the destination really easily, no matter how they prefer to do that. Now let's add in a different kind of content automatically. So I'm going to add in a video link and I'm going to edit it. Constant Contact has now developed a relationship with Vimeo. So if your organization uses Vimeo, it'll actually synchronize your accounts. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a video that I have on Vimeo. Of course, we support YouTube, and soon we're going to have an integration with Facebook and Instagram, so you can actually have those videos in your email as well. And a best practice is to put a little alternative text in case somebody is sight impaired and doesn't know what this image is. We'll go ahead and put these pieces in. And now I have a video in my email. Now, it doesn't play in the email. It'll just play a link to Vimeo, but I've just added that in just a couple of seconds. So now let's add a little bit of text to support that. And we'll put in my next tip for you. Video is a fantastic way to relate to your audience. If an image speaks 1,000 words, a video speaks 1,000 images. And that's really key when I come to a next tip for you. But let me go ahead and put a little bit of text underneath. It's just this easy. And why don't we double down with another call to action so people might be inclined to click on that, that button instead of the video. They can still see the video. And in the real world, I'd link that up as well. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm going to add a little bit of space here to just put a little float of that text right next to the video. Just float that next to it. And that brings me up to my next tip around content. So optimally, you want to try to retain your text content, meaning the words. You want to have that be no more than about 20 to 30 lines of text overall. We've actually done research that found that when associations have about 20 to 30 lines of text, they get the highest click-through rate. If you start to go more than that, what happens is you start to overwhelm subscribers. The average email subscriber only spends about 10 to 25 seconds in an email, and that does include members. So you want to make sure that you try to keep your content short. Now, some associations are probably doing this already, but I'm often asked, well, why is that, Matt? Well, my association, my members are paying for this content, or, there's plenty of people that tell me different things about why people want to read really long emails. The reality is you want to try to keep your content short to respect the amount of time they're likely to spend in it. And you really want to drive people somewhere else. You want to teach them to drive them somewhere else. Your website, a blog, social media, a video. That's because the moment they click, they're actually starting to internalize the experience. They're starting to realize the value that they bring, the value of the content you're sharing. We really want them to click. And of course, as I said, a tool like Constant Contact tracks who clicks on what, which gives you an idea of what people are really interested in. Now, my next tip, I'm going to actually add one more piece of content. So let me copy this line. And let's drag it down here. All right, my next piece of automated content development is going to be something called the Read More block. And what I'm going to simply do is add in a URL for some content. So let me grab that. I'm going to paste it in here and insert it. So I just added content from a website in a matter of seconds. Just that easy. And that brings me to my next tip around the amount of content. So you want to keep it to about 25 lines of text, 20 to 30 lines of text. You also want to keep your calls to action to no more than about 3. Now, reality is I'd have my logo linked back to my website. Of course, I'd have social media in my email. Those don't necessarily count, but the actual email body content, you want to have no more than 3 calls to action on average. We've also done research that says that when you have more than 3 calls to action, your overall click-through rate actually decreases. The reason for that is if you give people too many choices, they're likely to choose nothing, and we want them to click. Now, one thing you also want to remember is that without getting the email opened, nobody's going to click on it. So let's talk a little bit about some features in Constant Contact that help you get opens. So most of the time, most people that I meet assume that the subject line is the end-all, be-all reason that an email is opened. It's not really. It's actually this little bit of text underneath here. Sometimes it appears to the right of the subject line, sometimes it appears beneath it, but that's called pre-header text. And if you don't use a tool like Constant Contact, then your pre-header text is usually the first sentence of your email, and it might not be resonant enough to get people to open the email. You want to employ a tool like Constant Contact with pre-header text to encourage people to open the email. And in fact, I challenge you that when we finish this presentation today, take a look at what you're actually reading when you look at the inbox. You're probably scanning through that little bit of text that's telling you a little bit about what the email's about. And so that's what you want to use this feature for. Give people a little bit more information about what the email's about, or maybe even tease them with an unfinished sentence. The next thing you really want to consider to get your email opened is who sent it. Now, this is actually a typical problem in the association vertical, which means you want to make sure whatever is most recognized by your audience, that's the name you're going to use. Now, for many of you, that might be the acronym. And for the association that I used to work for, our acronym is what we called ourselves 99% of the time. People in our association membership base would know us as NACI. But you want to make sure that you use a name that's recognized. Now, there's lots of studies that say if an email comes from a person, it gets more opens, and that is true, but there's a danger, especially in the association vertical. And the reason for that is if you have an email come from a person, well, if that person leaves and people were opening the email because they recognize that person, well, then they're taking your open rate with them. So you want to make sure you use a name that's either not going to go anywhere or a name that's recognizable to your audience. Now, whether that's your fully spelled out name or an acronym, it's really up to you to decide what's going to be most recognized by your audience. Now, when it comes to subject line, people really obsess about creating a good subject line. Well, Constant Contact has you covered there too, but I have to show you the next step in sending the email. So we're going to pretend like this email is done. We've run it around the office. We got thumbs up. Constant Contact has built into it it's coming soon. It's a beta, but it's coming in this quarter, a subject line recommendation engine. And what this will do is it'll scan your content and recommend a subject line for you. Now, these are based on best practices. And if you don't feel like the subject line is perfect, well, one thing you can do is utilize another piece of automation in Constant Contact, which is our subject line A/B split test feature. So what this does is if you have two subject lines, this will automatically send your email to your audience randomly. And let's do a 25-25 split. 25% of my list will get one subject line randomly, 25% will get the other, and let's leave it at 48 hours, but I could shorten the window. At the end of 48 hours, Constant Contact will automatically send the remaining 50% of the list the best email subject line I could create. So along with the subject line recommendation engine and the split test feature, you can be assured that you're using the best subject line you could use. And the best practice is to constantly refine what works. Keep using the A/B split test to refine the kind of subject line you're using. One thing I encourage you to do, though, and I see this a lot in associations, is definitely don't rest on your laurels or opinions. You know, one thing I see in associations quite a bit is repetitious subject lines, meaning the same subject line every single time. I'd encourage you to use, if you're using Constant Contact, the split test feature to see if that assumption is right. Perhaps that kind of subject line is working for you. Perhaps you could do better. You don't know unless you test it. So the next feature I'm going to go into is some list growth tools. So we'll pretend that this email is all done and we've sent it, but how do you grow your list? Well, Constant Contact has you covered there in some automatic ways as well. So I'm going to go to sign up forms. Now there's a couple of ways we help you grow your list. We'll start online. So Constant Contact has inline forms and pop-up forms, and all of this is included in Constant Contact. So with inline forms, this would actually live on your website, and it's completely customizable. You can have it say anything you want, and you can see that it's showing up in real time as I build it. You can also determine what fields you want to have people fill out, and you can even force them to respond. Now they have to put in that information to complete the form. You also get to determine which list you want the new subscriber to go into. And I want you to remember that because we're going to talk about that when we get to automation in just a moment. I can also change the colors and the backgrounds, etc. Another kind of form we have is the pop-up form. Now, sometimes I get eye rolls when I do a presentation like this in person. Some people love pop-ups, some people don't. But the reality is pop-ups increase subscription rates to about 128% on average. The reason for that is they're really effective. They're in your face. And with Constant Contact, one tip we advise is to not use a solicitation like I'm using here. Don't make it about getting more email. People don't particularly want to get more email. They want information. So share how your emails are going to actually improve their lives, what kind of content you're going to share. Incentivize them with knowledge. If you change your verbiage on a pop-up to that, people are be more willing to actually subscribe to you. Constant Contact does offer the ability to have exit intent, meaning that if somebody leaves the website, you can have a pop-up show up, and timed intent, meaning that if somebody visits every day, they won't get the pop-up in front of them, which is one of the things that annoy people about this. Now, to get these on your website, you'd want to involve your IT director, your web services professional. It does require to add some code to your website. But one feature that doesn't require you to add code to your website is a fantastic benefit to using Constant Contact. Again, this is included. So we have a tool called the lead generation landing page. And what this does, it's going to look a lot like an email, like the email I just showed you, but it's really cool. So when I edit it, I have the same kind of functionality like I just showed you for the website. I can decide what kind of information I'm asking for. I can brand it. I can control all of those pieces. But when I publish it, what this does is it creates a little mini website for me. And I can share this little mini website anywhere. So I can share it on social media, on blogs, on industry periodical blogs, on anywhere other than my website to help me grow my list. And anybody that fills this out, just like the last form I showed you, I can determine what list they'll go into. And with some automation, I can have some emails automatically sent back to them. This is really fantastic if either your web presence isn't as robust as you'd want, maybe you're limited in what kind of IT or web services spend you have available, and just as a way to grow your list beyond your website. Now, speaking of growing your list beyond your website, the next feature I'm going to show you is my favorite. When it comes to list growth, you can't beat this next included tool. So what we have is a problem, meaning that I work for a company that offers digital marketing. And you might assume that with Constant Contact, we're nothing but digital. But you have to realize that your future members, your future donors, your future sponsors, your future constituents, they live in a physical world, right? And even with COVID, you probably have print periodicals, flyers, handouts, receipts, invoices. You probably have a lot of physical material out there. How do you get people to join your list from that? Well, included in Constant Contact is a feature called Text to Join. And what Text to Join does is it allows you to come up with a keyword. So I used my acronym for that keyword, and Constant Contact issues a 5-digit phone number. You share that on any print collateral, and you offer people the ability to join your list. You can even customize what people will see once they text that keyword to the phone number. Once they see that message and they put in their email address, you have the ability to decide what list they'll be put into, and you'll send them a follow-up message once they actually submit their email address. The benefit here is no one on your staff, not you, not anybody is texting. This is all done automatically for you by Constant Contact. These email addresses are added right into your Constant Contact database, and you can even, again, automatically send them emails. Kind of building up to something. So let's talk about automation directly. So we offer a couple of different kinds of automation within Constant Contact. To do that, I'm going to create some automation. Now, the first two I'm going to just talk about. We have date triggered automation, meaning that as somebody's birth date rolls around, you can automatically send them a birthday greeting up to 14 days to their birthday. It's a nice way to make people feel good. And even more pertinently to this audience, we have automated emails ready to go based on an anniversary. So if it's a membership anniversary of that type, you could trigger off an email automatically based on that date up to 14 days before that date to either thank them for their membership or even tie it into some other kind of automation that would be beneficial to your association. The next one I'm going to talk about is automated series, and this is where things get pretty cool. So we have a couple of different ways for you to carry somebody along a journey. We have open triggers, meaning that when they open an email from you, you can send them automatically a follow-up email. We have click triggers, meaning that if somebody clicks on a link in a specific email, you can send them automated emails. And we have list triggers. So if somebody joins a list, you can automatically trigger them. Let's go ahead and go with open an email, and I can create an email now, or I can copy from an existing campaign. Let's go ahead and use that demo email that you just saw me create in front of you. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to decide, okay, how long between the time that I deliver that first email do I want to deliver the next email? So let's go, we'll stick with 4, we'll go with 1 month, all right? We'll confirm that. And then I could add another one and another one and another one and another one. The benefit there is if there's some content that I'm sharing that's very similar, or I'm trying to get people to go take an action. I mean, a fantastic way to do this would be for conferences, a way to automatically queue up conference information and conference reminders. I can also tie this again to clicks. So if somebody clicks, I could send them information specifically about what they clicked on. The last piece of automation I'm going to go to before I take some questions from Reggie, is the benefit to all of this. So let me head back into my campaigns, and we'll talk about creating a welcome email. So in Constant Contact, everything I'm showing you is included except for the automated series. So what I just showed you does require an extra expenditure. It's not too much, about $20 a month. But the welcome email, the birthday emails, and the anniversary emails are included along with everything else I've shown you up to this point. And the welcome email is one if you're using Constant Contact currently, or if you're thinking about using Constant Contact, or even if the tool you're using offers it, I encourage you to set it up. The welcome email is triggered anytime somebody is added to a list from the outside. Text to join, from your website, from social media, those tools I showed you a little bit earlier. The welcome email is essential for you to set up because the welcome email has the highest open rate on average of any email you'll ever send. Roughly 80% open rate on average. And the reason is not a surprise. The reason is that if somebody just joined your list, they wouldn't be surprised to receive an email from you. So this is a great way to encourage people to join your list to receive a white paper, or a document, or some knowledge, a video that you might have, or even just thank them for their joining your list and give them an idea of the kind of content and the kind of frequency you might send. You'll recognize this editor. This is the same email editor I used before. All I would do is dress this email up with my logo and my content, and then schedule it so that anytime somebody joined the list, I'd be able to have them get that welcome email with that incredible open rate. And speaking of incredible, the last thing I'll share with you is this bit.ly. So write down bit.ly/CTCT-ASAE. That's going to bring you to a site, and the biggest reason I'm excited to talk to you today. I bet you didn't know that Constant Contact will give your association an account for free. For free. We have a fantastic benefit. It's our association program. And what this does is it will give your association, your mother association, a free Constant Contact account, and give discounted Constant Contact accounts to your members. We'll offer a discount to your members. It's a great member benefit. And the discount can be applied in one of two ways. You can either offer them directly the discount as a benefit of being a member to you, or if your model prefers this, we have a revenue share model, which means that we'll give you some of that revenue from your members as a way to have non-reoccurring dues revenue, or reoccurring non-dues revenue. It's whatever model you prefer, but it's a fantastic way to offer a tool that your members can use, a great way for your association to have a Constant Contact account for free with all the bells and whistles I've shown you today, and an easy to use interface that is not only easy to use, but very effective. And with that, Reggie, what do you got for me?
I bet you got people's attention with that free offer. I tell you that. Yeah, a couple of questions in here, my friend, that I'll relate to you. One of our colleagues, Maureen O'Rourke at the Ohio Restaurant Association, says that they use Atlas as their CRM database. Will Constant Contact integrate with Atlas?
I would have to, the reality, Reggie, I hate to cop out on her, it seems like a never ending number of CRM tools out there. I do have a cohort here at Constant Contact behind the scenes. He might be able to do some research really quickly and get back to us. I don't know of that one, but we do integrate with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CRMs. And we also integrate with Zapier, which is an integration tool. Yep. And so I'd be willing to bet if it's a really common, especially it sounds like restaurant related CRM, we probably connect to it.
Okay. And you were talking about the number of lines of text to use in an email, your recommendations. Does that change if you're talking about a responsive situation? So if I got a certain amount of text in a regular email, what happens when I go mobile, for example?
Well, the mobile reason, and I didn't even touch on that for time, Reggie, it's all really driven around mobile. So the average association, 50% of their list is likely to open an email on a mobile device, if not more. And so those best practices that I shared are not only important to keep your email short and simple, but it's really to keep it short and simple on a mobile device. So since most people are going to open an email on a mobile device, that's where that 20 lines of text, those 3 calls to action, no more than 3 images come into play. Because if an email starts to get really long on a PC, Mac, or tablet, and Constant Contact is mobile responsive, so we'll move things around to make sure it looks good on a phone. Well, if it's really long on a PC, Mac, or tablet, it's going to get really long on a mobile device. And I encourage everybody to try this out themselves. Next time you get an email, see how many scrolls you go through before you give up. The more people have to scroll, the less they're paying attention to your content. And we want them to pay attention to that content. So to come back to your very simple question with my long-winded answer, even with automation, even with mobile responsive, you really want to keep that email as short as possible. And the key to do that, especially in associations, look, I know associations have a lot to say, and some of you charge for membership. Some of you, the value proposition that you offer members is this content. The way to keep your email short is to segment your audience. So, I mean, a simple kind of segmentation is members and non-members. That's an easy break right there. So give them different kinds of content, keep your email shorter. But there's probably a large variety of ways that you may want to segment. That could be geography, that could be what they're interested in or what kind of member they are. If you segment, then that allows you to keep your email shorter because you're only talking to that small group.
So this is my own question, have you seen any differences either in terms of activities by associations or by their subscribers since COVID hit us? Have you seen any differences in people's activities and actions?
Yeah, there's a lot more activity, period. And so I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, the kind of activity we're seeing is a lot of webinar and digital event promotion. Dependent on the industry, we're seeing more email sends, more landing page creation, more websites built. Some associations are using our e-commerce tools to sell products to generate additional revenue streams. So overall, all industries, we're seeing an increase in online marketing. In associations, that increase is actually more than the norm. It's just everybody, I know you've got to be dealing with this at ASAE. We're very used to having that physical presence, and that's a big part of what associations are built around, whether that's an annual conference or some small breakout type conferences. And so everybody's pivoting to digital, and thankfully ConstantContact's there to help them.
Any increase or decrease in what you've seen in terms of click-through rates and open rates during this time?
Increase across the board. Yeah. So, the correlation there, I think, is obvious too, as more and more people are at home and less distracted. They have more time to look at content, and associations in particular are getting really good at refining their content and keeping people engaged because they have to. I mean, it differs by the association model, but it's not a big surprise that as associations are like, okay, we've got to reinvent the wheel here. We've got have to find a whole new way to communicate to people. Well, click rates and open rates are going up with that.
Cool. All right, my friend, I think somebody asked, could you show us a little bit of a demo of what an email looks like with images blocked?
I wasn't prepared for that. It would take me a little bit of work. Basically, I'd be willing to bet everybody listening has seen an email like that. That's when you get an email in your inbox and you have to download the images. It's usually a little gray square with maybe a red X. That is driven by the subscriber's inbox. It's nothing ConstantContact can help you do or the association did wrong. It's just based on the settings inside the inbox of that particular person. But basically, it replaces the image with a rectangle with a little red square. It says download to view.
One last question. I think it's the last question. Denise is getting active over there. Denise, how you doing? Do you have unsubscriber pages? And so do you have a place where people can go and unsubscribe or subscribe to different things they might want to receive?
Yeah, so with unsubscribe, at the bottom of every ConstantContact email by federal law, we have an unsubscribe button. Now, if people happen to be on multiple lists, they are given the opportunity to unsubscribe to multiple lists. As far as subscribe, giving people options on what list to subscribe, that'd be something you'd set up when you're setting up those forms that I showed earlier. As far as unsubscribe, and I think I'm reading a little bit between the lines, ConstantContact automatically removes anybody that unsubscribes. You do have the ability to add them back upon their request, but it's all done for you. You don't have to manage it. You don't have to worry about it.
All right, my friend. So thank you for an entertaining and knowledge-filled demo, my friend, and look forward to seeing you down the road, okay?
All right. Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you, sir.